to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. I'm excited to tell you that I have Judith Neary and Klassen back with me with another installment of DesignBiz Live. And you know what that means? That means that the show is also a video show that you can watch and listen at the same time if you're interested at my YouTube channel, which is A Well-Designed Business. Now, I also want to remind you that we have a new sponsor to the show, Camp Chroma. Did you know that you can measure color? Well, you can take measurements for everything else in the design plan, like window treatments and furniture, so why not measure color too? Quantifying how we perceive color sounds like it should be complicated, but it's not. You can learn all about this simple, data-based approach to architectural color design at Camp Chroma. Camp Chroma is an online, on-demand color training program for professionals like you. You can just go to campchroma.com and see how to enroll. Alrighty, so now on to the show today. I want to share with you that I received an email from Colleen Knowles of ColleenKnowles.com Interiors. And she is in Mercer Island, Washington State. Okay. So Colleen sent me an email a couple of weeks back and she said, "Thank you so much for your podcast. You are beyond excellent with so little fluff. It's truly amazing." Well, thank you, Colleen. And she said that she's in the process of getting her back of house systems more organized. And the topic that I have not found in your podcast bank is on purchasing. Would you consider a podcast that gives a sense of the industry norms and best practices for purchasing? So here's the thing. Judith, Corey, and myself, we talk about this today. We pull this apart a little bit. And like almost every discussion that does center on fees, whether it be hourly or flat fee or purchasing and plus markup and all that stuff, it is a complicated conversation that often goes down winding little trails. So we did our best to keep it sort of wrestled in there. I hope you enjoy it. And Colleen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to A, listen to the show, and B, to emailing me and suggesting this topic. I have a feeling we will be readdressing it over the next coming months because it just is, in 1 hour, it's just not possible to cover it. But we did our best this first time out. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know. Go ahead and send me an email at info@luannigara.com if you have suggestions for shows or anything that you need to communicate with me. Okay, so here we go. Get ready. Buckle up. Well, here I am. I'm back again with my two buddies. This is DesignBiz Live 6. I think we're on episode 6 for this dynamic trio of us here. I'm with my friends Klassen and Judith Neary. Hi, you guys. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having us back, Luann.
Thanks, Luann. Hi, Judith.
Hi, Corey.
So it's been a while. I mean, it's tough getting 3 busy people in one place at one time. It really is not so easy, but we've done it and I'm happy because it's been a long time. And we have a great topic, right?
Yes.
Really cool.
Well, a cool topic. A volatile topic.
Yes, it is that. So let's give a shout out to Colleen Knowles from Washington, over by your neck of the woods, both of you, Washington State, not DC. She sent me an email recently with a list of questions that she wished that I would address on the podcast. And one of these questions is, would we discuss on the podcast industry norms and best practices for purchasing? And so as soon as I saw this, I said, I'm going to send this off to Judith and Corey because this sounds like that kind of a show. So I'm a little frightened. I have to say, we haven't even started. I'm just a little afraid of where and how this is going to go. But I do know that it is a good and worthy topic to share. I will say and share with you guys that since I have been running masterminds and one-on-one coaching, it is really one of the biggest challenges that new interior designers face with running their business on how to, we're not talking about the act of purchasing. We're talking about how to price the purchasing and how to handle the interaction with the client and the vendor. Okay. So there's all different ways to do this. I mean, I know I've heard of people that get the discount, that whatever the discount is from their vendor or their contractor, their supplier, I should say, and they split it with their client. And I've heard others that give it all to the client and charge by the hour or charge for the design fee. And you guys have different perspective on it. So is one of you able to, I should have asked this before we started recording, is one of you able to actually with more intelligence explain some of the different models that are out there, and then we'll get to the specific way that you guys do it?
Well, the intelligence part might be the issue here. Sorry, Corey. Oh, he snorted. Okay.
Already. That's a record. 3 minutes in.
3 minutes in. I'll let Corey start because I will probably have a different perspective or, well, yeah, I'll just have a different perspective really.
Okay.
So
Probably.
I'll let Corey start on this.
Well, as far as pricing models go for purchasing or for our bigger, greater design industry, I think there are a few that we could pull from that are going to be common things, and there are some of them that are kind of risky because there might be borderline troublesome.
Okay.
Let's
just run down like the 1, 2, or 3 different ways that your experience working with and doing speeches and presentations all across the country, the two of you, that you run into are typical models for pricing.
Sure.
Okay.
I think the first one is obviously a standard markup to achieve a desired margin. That one has a multiplier based upon a base price,
okay,
if you will. And that's before a manufacturer suggested retail price, or it's your purchase price, basically times a number.
Okay.
And that's your
so
sell price.
In that model, you're completely disregarding the quote unquote suggested retail price. We're working from wholesale up. Okay.
Yeah, we're a specialized service. This is what we do. This is how we make our money, and that's how you charge. You charge accordingly. The other part another one that you can use is a commission structure where the supplier might give you a commission based upon a certain percentage for selling their product, where the client purchases directly from that supplier and you invoice that supplier for a predetermined amount of commission, which should be disclosed to your client that you are getting a commission from the sale.
Okay.
Legally should be disclosed.
Right.
Then the last one is it's a kind of I actually don't like it. It's called a kickback.
Okay.
This is the one that can be quite troublesome for a lot of people because it falls under a very vague amount of circumstances with the law, where if you are going to a certain supplier and getting a check from that supplier for bringing a client there, that's preferential treatment, and that isn't how the sale of goods should work. Okay. So that's called, it's a big word, it's called racketeering. So,
okay.
Sorry, throw it out there. Just that's the one you want to stay away from. So.
Okay. So, and then I guess the thing is, are we establishing that this conversation is really centering on when you're using a trade source and there is a net price on it? Because it's a whole nother tangent if we're talking about a retail source, right?
Absolutely, because some retail sources that you purchase from aren't necessarily going to have a directed cost to you. They're going to have a cost that's in the store or in the retail location, and you might get a 10% off, you might get 20% off, you might get 25% off that purchase, and that's the one where you can split that discount if the supplier agrees to that, or the retailer agrees to doing that, because they don't have to. Typically, what has to happen is the designer has to sign off on the bill of sale, which means that the designer is taking the liability for the sale. And even if they're using the client's credit card, those funds aren't really coming through. Anyway, yeah, it's a long process.
Yeah, it's complicated. All right, so let's do this. This is every time I talk to you guys, it's complicated. So, as typical, let's break it into two parts of the conversation. Let's first restrict ourselves to when we are purchasing from trade sources. Okay. So there is an established net pricing. And then if we're not completely exhausted and completely around a tree, we'll spend some time talking about how you handle it if the source is a retail source that's giving you 10 or 15% off of the retail. Okay. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So first, trade sources. So Corey, your model is that you work from net up, and you have established, I understand both of you have established a percentage that you mark up from net up, and you do that across the board with every product. Is that right?
Every single product gets the same markup. Doesn't matter what we sell.
Okay. So if
Just
you
doesn't matter.
sell does this count when you work with, say, a contractor is going to build you a $40,000 built-in? Is that in this discussion, and so you're going to put the same percentage on that, or that's a whole different animal?
Well, there's two parts to that, which we should probably break down a little bit. So
Okay.
I'm going to roll you back a little bit
Okay.
into something that's called a real property contractor. And this is probably Canadian more specific than it would be US specific. But if you are a designer and you are purchasing a product that gets installed onto the property, and you are providing the service of installation, you are considered a contractor. That means that you need to have the right insurances. You need to disclose your markups and your margins completely to your client. And you need to carry all the WorkSafe BC, well, that's what we call it here, or workers' compensation insurance for everybody that's installing the product on the job site. So that's a bit of a rollback that we need to consider. What I do to keep myself as a retailer is we do not provide installation services because of the insurance risk and liabilities. Okay.
So are you saying in that condition, your business isn't in the middle of that? So if you are drawing the specifications for a $40,000 built-in, you get paid by the client to do the design, and then they hire the contractor between client and contractor to do that work?
They can do that. We can also sell the product to do the installation, but we won't actually physically do the labor. So we can use cabinetry as an example because that's a really easy, tangible item. We do make our own cabinetry. We sell our cabinetry. It's a good at that point, and it gets delivered to the project site, but it stays at the project site. We help the client during the installation process by monitoring it, but what we don't do is we actually do not hire the labor to install it.
Okay.
That's the differentiator. Up here.
Well,
north of the 49th.
That's true, because Alaska's farther north than you are. So there you go.
Right.
So very similar south of the border. I'll give you another example that's similar to what Corey is talking about, because this also can address a commission structure that could work for a designer. And if they manage it and disclose it, it actually can be a gateway to other design services as part of their menu of services.
Okay.
So an example is countertops, okay? Countertops, some designers will purchase countertop slab material and then contract with a fabricator to cut the material and install it. So they've now bridged, and they are now, because it's a furnish and install, acting as a general contractor. Very dangerous area for a lot of designers. Very, very dangerous area to be in. For all the issues that Corey mentioned that Canada are on the other side of the border, same implied liabilities. So with countertops as an example, because the material and the labor go together, then the homeowner has a warranty on the labor and the installation, so it's packaged, okay? And that fabricator then also has to carry all the insurance and liability. Now, part of that commission fee structure that a designer could benefit from is by working with a countertop fabricator, that the countertop fabricator then pays them a small percentage of the job, or could be a fixed fee, for them to provide the drawings, the material selections, be there at the time of template to answer questions at the time of template, and to be there during the time of installation, again, to answer questions on the installation and supervise everything that it is being handled correctly. So that's a little different structure than, say, a designer going and buying slab material and finding somebody to build it or cut it and install it.
So what you're saying is, instead of the consumer paying the designer for that process, you're suggesting that you've had relationships where the contractor that is paying you for that process.
Correct. So, I mean, could a designer go to a homeowner and say, I'll provide this service for you at a fixed price, drawings, selections, be there to supervise this, and you know, here's my fee of $750 to do this for you, okay? And the other option is that the countertop fabricator may subcontract that designer to perform that service on their behalf.
So essentially, Judith, you're saying you're a sales consultant.
Correct.
Receiving a commission for a certain amount of work being done.
Correct.
And so let me ask you something.
That's a tangible, that's a realistic item.
And that makes sense. But see, that sounds like, now, I mean, this opens a can of worms for me, because that are not the can that I thought we were in. But we're going to just answer this one question before we move on. Is, are you just like, in other words, are you discussing that and bringing that up from the standpoint that you add it to your business model as another revenue stream? So in other words, designer Sally Smith, one day a client calls their studio and says, I'm interested in having, my kitchen, let's just restrict it to kitchen countertops replaced. Okay. Do you do that? Well, I consult to do that. Okay. What is your consultation fee? Well, what I'm going to do is going to come out. I'm going to look at your existing kitchen. I'm going to suggest the surface that I think will be the most practical and durable. Then I'm going to suggest the color and the style that I think will fit with your thing. And I'm going to do the drawings for the contractor. And I'm going to oversee or just be on site for the measure and for the install in case that contractor has questions. That's $750, Mrs. Smith. Do you want to do it? What you're saying is that's viable on that end, but it's viable on the other end to go and meet these different contractors and say, look, I might hire you sometimes to do a full-on project, but not for nothing, you can hire me sometimes too if you have a homeowner coming to you directly and the hassle and the heartache that can happen without a professional in the middle, and I will do this service for you for a flat design fee of XYZ for, you can even call it for a certain amount of square feet or the typical kitchen. Is that what you're describing, to just a way to add another revenue stream to your business model?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much you summarized it beautifully.
Okay. So that's cool. So and then either in both of these cases, in each of these cases, I should say, it is on one hand, it's when you're contractor facing, it is like a salesman and their commission. And when you're consumer facing, it's an execution fee. It's a design and execution fee. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I like it. Okay. So now I think, though, in order to try and get somewhere with this conversation, why don't we narrow our conversation down again even further? So now we're narrowing it down to things that we buy at net cost, trade only sources. And let's further narrow it down to, the easy things, but I think are the hard things for pricing. Furniture, carpeting, like those are the things that I think that designers struggle with. Okay. Go ahead. You go, Ju.
Okay. And let me put because I was thinking about, actually, Colleen had some great questions. And when you look at her website, the type of services and offerings that she has as an interior designer. And in one of her images, she has some pictures of pillows. And so I went down the pillow path. Now,
and that's normally not your path. I know that.
No, it's not. Unless I'm sitting on one. Okay. So here's, as a sole proprietor for me, okay, I looked at that and I thought to myself, all right, I'm just going to run down the scenario. Let's say I can source a drapery workroom or a workroom that makes pillows. And I find a pillow that, for my homeowner, first of all, I have to help her make the fabric and pillow selection. So there's some time involved with that. But let's say I sell the pillow to her. Okay, so I buy the pillow for $100. I mark it up 1.75. So I'm selling it at $175 for that pillow. Mm-hmm. I'm making $75 on a pillow that probably is going to take me at least 3 or 4 hours just to expedite the whole process between paperwork and back and forth and blah, 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 and purchase agreements and taking the money and depositing the money and then accounting for taxes and blah, blah, blah. Not worth it to me. Wait.
Unless there's 20 of those pillows.
Exactly.
Well, you got to think of the order minimum, yeah. But
my point is that
wait for it.
Thank you. Is you have to come to a value relationship with yourself and the homeowner. Does it make sense for me financially as a sole proprietor to take that time to expedite that? Is that something that's really with a smart decision for me to make?
And
now you can talk, Corey.
And I totally agree with you, except there's one exception to the rule. I'll get to the exception. Yes, there needs to be a project minimum. Okay?
Okay.
We have a minimum that we would take on a styling project for a one room or whatever that minimum is going to be. If it's multiple rooms, we can usually stretch those dollars out. Mm-hmm. But if it's one room, you really need to understand that we are professionals and we do provide professional service. And it does depend on your market area. So I'm going to speak from my market area and what our minimum is. We start at $30,000 for a room. If you do not have a styling budget of $30,000 for a room, there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do for you as far as procurement goes. Then we can shift you over to some of our online services instead, and you do all the purchasing yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
And so the thing is, can I just say, were you hatched as a baby designer starting with a $30,000 minimum?
No.
Okay.
I was not. That's called experience.
I know. So
that's a hell of a lot of pillows.
That's it. Let's
right.
But let's back it down again. Let's bring it down again. Let's bring it down to back in the day, starting out, baby designer. It's me, myself working out of the third floor of my home, or maybe I've got a studio and I've got one employee. We are not going to have the luxury at this point of starting with minimums. Okay?
No. However, you need to come up with some sort of balance in this. So yes, you need to collect a fee to do the work.
Yes.
So that's how you can kind of offset some of the extra additional costs. So we take a minimum design retainer when we do styling jobs, and it's a minimum $5,000 retainer, and that gets us working. And then we take a percent of project at the end of it, and the 5,000 is applied to the percent of project.
Okay.
So that's styling only.
Okay. So let's just say we're a designer with under 1 year experience, maybe under 3 year experience. And the bulk of the inquiries at this point are coming in and they look like, I would love to redo my master bedroom. I have to keep the furniture, but I'm willing to do the carpet and the window treatments and the bedding and accessorizing. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say that's a typical thing that somebody's going to run into, and there might be happy day if they're actually willing to buy new furniture as well. Okay. So what are you saying is happening on that price structure that would be a good business practice for somebody to think about starting out? Is that something like, okay, it's a $500 or it's a $750 design fee and then cost plus percentage on everything purchased? Like what, get me back in that day, in that headset.
So if you are a new designer, you're starting out, you do not likely have the credit extension from your bank or like a credit card. You likely do not have tens of thousands sitting in your bank account from your net profit. You likely do not have overhead as well, substantial overhead. So there are certain things that you can eliminate from the process overall. So if you don't have labor and you don't have a whole lot of overhead, you don't need to be charging what larger firms are charging, because that's just wrong.
Okay.
What you can consider is a flat fee structure, if that works for you, and based upon a certain number of hours, or you can consider hourly, and how you get to that hourly margin is your own business. But if you're doing a percent of product, you may not want to be in the 20% range like we're at. You may want to be in the 10% range because your overhead is that much less.
And I'm going to fight you on that. I have to say, I would not. I mean, I just think that if you're going to go on, I would almost rather see you grow your flat designer fee slower and raise it as you go. But my advice would be, if the industry is typically putting 1.75% or whatever, and of course there is no typical, but the point is, I think that for my way of thinking, that would be the minimum that I would, like you said, it's the minimum that you work on. It's you take your wholesale costs, you put 1.75% on, both of you do, and then you add shipping and delivery and taxes to that. And I have to say, you can't run a business on a whole lot less net profit than that. It's absurd. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I would rather a new designer stand there in that space from day one and say, okay, you want that piece of art from Home Goods? If that's where I'm going and it's $100, it's $100 plus 1.75%, because I went around and picked it for you, lady. You could have gone to Home Goods yourself.
and I agree with you now, right?
Okay.
Just saying that there are other methods to a lot of different professionals are going to blend a whole bunch of other things to make their net profit go up. If you are working from your home versus working out of a studio space like Judith or I do, or an office with a larger amount of employees, then your pricing structures shift all around.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as what I do, it doesn't matter where we purchase it from or how we get it. It all has the same markup.
Well, and that's funny that you just said that, because I was just thinking, I misspoke. I talking about only net wholesale product, and then I used Home Goods as an example. And
Correct.
I'm not so sure you would put 1.75% off on a retail item. In that case, you probably should be getting paid by the hour to purchase it and shop for it. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or you're making an allowance that says, we're going to do an accessories allowance based upon this much dollar figure, and I'm going to take 10%, 20% of that so then it's still a markup on the product.
That's a good way to look at it.
You can kind of leave it as a line item budget, because you're always going to need frou things.
Right.
The key standpoint for us is, yes, we use different online vendors and retailers. And we use Wayfair. we do not use house as an example, but
Don't get started on that.
But the key thing is, as a business person, I need to look at the sustainability of the pricing model, and I need to make sure that there's money flowing into my business so that I can get paid.
Right.
I'm a sole proprietor. I don't take a salary. I take a annual cut, and I take a draw off of that every year. I obviously I want to make the most amount of profit that I can, not just for me, but I also want to support my employees
Right.
that work for me. I want to be able to give them raises. I want to be able to pay for things for them, like extra courses. I want to be able to pay for their mileage. Those are, I know, Judith, it's coming. It's just so important that you make sure that your margin is there.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's what I was saying. I would rather somebody learn from the beginning to put on that 1.75 or whatever it is and do other things that they're not comfortable with as far as money wise, maybe charge less for the consultation or charge less for the design fee, but to get right out the gate, understanding that whether you have a studio in your home or a studio with rent, that it's a business and that you have to make a certain profit. Judith, what did you want to say?
Well, let's just talk about the industry at large, because the rules have changed really dramatically in just the last month.
I'm warning you guys. I'm warning you.
I didn't say it. Okay, I didn't say it. All I said that the rules changed. Okay, which, and this is what I
this is not a democracy. This little show here. I'm just going to say.
Luann rocks. All right, it's good to be the queen.
That's right.
So I got to say it. I was so waiting to say so. The rules have changed in such a way that it's hard to have a standard package for purchasing.
Okay.
When you have online shopping sites, and I want to go back to your conversation about the person that's starting out first year, second year, third year, and is trying to find a path in this new design environment. I'm really trying to be good here, okay? It's really hard in this new design environment. And I'll give you an example. One of the contractors that I work with does an hourly rate plus 20% to manage product, okay? In other words, everything that happens on a job site. And he's very brilliant at it, and he practices full disclosure, and there's never an issue with the clients. If designers, particularly young ones, not young ones, ones that are just really beginning to build their careers in the industry, look at something that practices not only full disclosure, but also takes into account the fact that they have to manage purchasing and product on behalf of the homeowner and just charge a percentage for that. I don't think you would come across too many homeowners that would disagree with that. This full disclosure model. And allow them then to find their zone of genius for being profitable. Now, wait, I got one more.
All right, because I don't get that.
Well, let me give you an example. Okay. Oddly, I have one. Okay. A client who has more Amazon shipping boxes than she does furniture in her house. How about that?
Okay.
What's she putting in them?
No, it's what she's receiving from Amazon.
Oh.
Okay. In other words, Amazon puts things in boxes and ships it, okay, which is a very tough online retailer to beat, to struggle against, okay? Not to mention any other retailers online. But
not to mention them.
With what I wanted to share is that with this particular homeowner, I helped her on a different portion of the project, but she literally decorated her home with purchases from Amazon, and her philosophy was, well, I can ship it back for free. Okay. In the meantime, the Amazon delivery driver doesn't, he just backs up, throws it out the back of the bus, and then drives away. He doesn't even get signatures anymore because he knows he's going to have to come back and pick up half the stuff.
Right.
The point I'm trying to make here is that there is a value in helping that homeowner with an hourly rate shop for that product.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's how they want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, either you're making an hourly rate or you're adding a percentage for the product that they ultimately did buy simply as a facilitation fee, okay, or as a goods fee.
I get that. And I would be more wanting to tell the designers that I work with is that to get the hourly rate on the whole process, because not just what she keeps. You could spend 10 hours with her and she keep 2 things and you're like, awesome, made $3, love in life. So,
right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's a slippery slope. Obviously you need to pick and choose how you're going to sell yourself or sell your services in that case. And I wish there was an easier way to do all that, but
can I ask you guys a question? What I don't understand is, and Corey and you and Judith, you tell me, like when you both are marking 40% up from net, are you just presenting your client like, so the sofa is $1,000 net, so that makes it, you're doing 1.75%, I'm sorry, so that makes that selling price of $1,750. Are you just giving the invoice for the $1,750, or are you saying, okay, one sofa $1,000 plus $750, fee or commission, whatever word you use? Which way are you doing it?
Well, let me I can go a roundabout answer, but yeah, it's the invoice is for the retail price. And
you're giving the invoice for $1,750.
Absolutely, because we're the retailer. We're going to manage. We're going to manage the expediting of it all.
Right.
We're going to order it. We're going to do the purchase order. We're going to manage the delivery. We're going to make sure it shows up on time. We're going to inspect it and make sure it's what it is, what it's supposed to be. And then if there's a problem with it, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line, you call me.
Right.
Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to sell you something else.
Right.
While I'm here. Right.
But see, this is the part that I truly do not understand. And I recognize that part of the disconnect is because my business model is not set up like an interior design firm. Okay. But I do have net pricing. It's not like, there's no net pricing for my business. And I don't understand why and how any consumer has the nerve to say, I want to know what your net pricing is. I want to know what your cost is on this. And how come as an industry, people say, well, my cost is $1,000. Like, where are you at? What?
Whoa. Can I just stop you there for a minute?
Okay, go ahead.
This is an exact scenario that happened to me recently.
Okay.
And I was, without speaking too much because there's some things up in the air about it. But what it came down to was we custom manufactured an item or several items for a project. Those items got delivered. At a purchase price, we provided a contract with a purchase terms of terms and conditions, and that's what got delivered. What we were asked for 6 months later was, what was your markup on that?
I don't get it.
And I said, my equation to this is, it's equivalent as going to Safeway, buying a 99-cent head of iceberg lettuce, going through the cashier, going home, chopping it up and eating it, and saying, you know what? How much did that lettuce cost Safeway? And then going back and saying, here's my stuff on a plate. How much did this cost you?
And forget even doing it after the fact. How about prior to the purchase? I don't know any other industry that what other industry is the first question that you ask after hello and how, when could you come to my house and do a consultation is, and are you going to share your net pricing with me? Are you going to charge me your net pricing? Are you going to charge me what it costs you? Any which way you slice it. It's like,
and it comes down to somebody on TV said that, and then it went ricocheting all across our industry.
I don't know. I don't understand it. And truthfully, the fact that your markup is 1.75 as opposed to you know, I guess it would be 2.00 also escapes me, frankly. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I mean, typical retail in this country is it costs you $1,000, you charge $2,000.
Well, so.
Hi, Judith. How are you today?
Yeah, I remember me. I was shopping in Safeway. I'm sorry. I just got through the line. I'm back.
When did you get so shy anyway? Come on. You just plow in.
I'm watching the two of you. It's pretty entertaining. What can I say? Well, I think there's a couple of things here that you each have a much more specialized or unique business that's much broader in the interiors than, say, mine. So some of the things that I can speak to, well, like I don't care about lettuce. What can I say? Really don't care. No. But
let's just remind people, since if it's a new episode for them, that you are a kitchen and bath specialist.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I came from commercial and interior.
No, but I'm saying when you say your business model is different, and maybe not everybody's heard all the other 5 DesignBiz lives. I'm just saying we're giving them a little background, and I really, you know what I'm saying?
Well, we both are, but
that's tragic for those folks that haven't listened to us previously.
I know.
You need to listen to all.
I want to go back to something that you said, Luann, is that your perception is if you buy it at 1,000, you should sell it at 2,000. Okay, that you don't understand, why we pick 1.75. It's not necessarily every time 1.75. Sometimes if I have a customer client that I know is going to be incredibly high pain factor, we go to right 2.5 right out the bat. Okay, it's just
love it.
But at the same point, oftentimes the higher a ticket item. Okay, you can't necessarily just send them an invoice for $1,750 and say, here's your sofa. Okay, so oftentimes the higher the ticket, the more invested in the project, the more detailed, the more complicated, the better you should be at disclosing what it is that they're purchasing. Okay, in other words, give them the type of construction. In your case, Luann, what's the blackout factor? What's the fiber weight? I've forgotten some of the terms, but you detail them to death, so that they all of a sudden understand the value of what they're purchasing. So too many times we just, it's like, I hate to use the Amazon shopping technique as opposed to other online retailers, but you have to look at the bottom for all the specifications and information, and it's not necessarily even there. So one of the values that a designer can bring to, if they're selling product to a homeowner, is disclose what it is that they're buying and give it some really nice description so that when you get to that bottom line, they're not choking on that amount.
Okay, so
they understand what they're purchasing.
So what I'm hearing is when you were saying disclose everything in your other discussion, I took it to mean to disclose pricing. What you're saying is to disclose all of the quality and the components that are going into what you're selling them. That's correct. Okay. See, I took disclose as, this cost me this much money. Okay. Right. So no.
Some of that might be called like a tear sheet, or a cut sheet, or a spec sheet, or even just doing general specifications. And it's actually something that's really not taught a lot anymore as how to do that. We have a junior that works for me, and that's the one thing she said. I don't know how to do specifications, but our software, MyDoma, makes it really easy.
Just saying, MyDoma Studio.
Just saying, yeah. Exactly.
But seriously, I mean, and that is a great point. We're laughing and joking about it, but it is a great point because when you put a product into MyDoma, it pulls all that information with it, right?
Yeah, and now they have now you don't really have to worry about how to do a markup or anything like that. It's something that's just built in the back end, and it's pop. There it is. That's the price.
Okay,
so now it's kind of cool.
And Judith, you touched on something as far as when things get very expensive. So I could almost see having a model of for items up to $10,000, we charge, net plus 1.75. But items over $10,000, maybe you don't have that. Maybe in my Doma studio, for instance, you have, once it's over $10,000, it doesn't automatically calculate that. You got to sit and have a conversation and decide what it's going to be or something like that, right? Because I could see that depending on what it is, you might not necessarily charge $17,000 for something that costs you $10,000. That's it's like a heck of a lot of money in there. You could charge $15,000.
Right, because it's the same amount of work. Same amount of work to do the $5,000 object. So I could see.
But I don't think you have to tell anybody about that. I think that's what I object to. That there seems that I often hear the conversation center around explaining all of this with your, what I consider, proprietary information to the client. To me, this is where I leave room for that. I have a different business model, but to me, I would never, ever, ever entertain a conversation with anybody, not a direct retail client, not a trade client with a designer, about what this is costing me versus what I'm charging you for it.
No,
look, lady, you want it or you don't want it.
Well,
right.
I think that goes. One of the things I think that we forget is if that's the conversation that's starting before you're even down the path, that's just not the right homeowner for you.
Right. And so let's stop right there, because we do have new designers that are faced with this conversation right out the gate in their first 5, 8, 10, 15 projects, where the client is saying to them, oh, I found you on Instagram. I found your website. You look really terrific. What's your initial consultation fee? Oh, okay. It's $220. Okay. That's awesome. And what am I going to get? Well, I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to give you some ideas and this and that. Okay. And then after that, what happens if we're going to order things? Oh, well, then I'll specify the products. Okay. And you're going to tell me what your net cost is on that? You see, that's what's happening to the young designer. You see, and I feel like my brain is like that. Stop. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Stop that conversation. Move that train around. But I wanted to hear it from you two who do it for a living. When the whole thing goes good, and then that's the next conversation, what's the next thing that you say?
The next thing you should say is, well, procurement, use the big word, procurement is a service.
Okay. I love it. So, and it's true. You're explaining, just like you were describing, disclose all of the quality that goes into a piece that you're selling. This is what I'm always saying to them too. You have to talk about your value. Mm-hmm. Why, yes, if you want to go on your own and order it, then go right ahead. But if you want me to do it, then there is a fee for me doing it. And
procurement is a service, and I will itemize every single item for you on an invoice. However, we do not disclose our net costs.
Right. I don't know if either of you heard the program with Blanche Garcia. She's very smart business lady. She actually has it down this way. She says to them, look, she has her initial consultation. She actually does her initial consultation 2 different ways also, one free and one paid. And she lets the client decide which one they want. And what she says in point blank is, on the free consultation, it's I'm coming out, I'm getting to know you, I'm getting to learn the space, and you're getting to know me as a person, but I will not answer any specific questions about your space. You know what I mean? There's not going to be like, well, should I move that wall and should I paint this? It's not happening. If you want a free consultation, it's about us getting to know each other and me explaining to you my process and our company. If you want advice and tips on that first consultation, then there's a fee for it. And for the hour, 2 hours I'm there, I'll tell you as much as I can tell you. So I think that's very clean. It makes a very good specific arrangement up front. And to just give Blanche props, she does not mind doing the free consultation because she has confidence in her salesmanship abilities. And she basically says, if I'm in your door and I think you're a good fit for me, I'm probably going to be able to sell you my services. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Blanche knows her psychographics.
Exactly.
And
you know what else she has? She has, she's really kind of established what her menu is and what her rules are, and that's brilliant.
Well,
and she practices full disclosure. She tells them up front.
Exactly, the agreement. But here's where it gets the next process is as clear for her. What she does is she says to them, she charges her design fee. Boom, you could take your design fee. You can take my designs. Here's the fee. You paid for it. That's great. For the execution phase, she says, look, you could do one of two things. When I give you the design, I can give you an itemized Excel spreadsheet of every single item that I think will go into this place. And if you want to order all of those on your own and not pay me to do it, then I will select only retail sources. And take your list and, ride off into the sunset and call 9,000 people and wait for 20,000 deliveries and send 42,000 things back when they don't fit. Or I can do it for you, and I will source a combination of to the trade and retail places. And this is how much she charges, I believe, 35% markup on it. Flat, done, sorry. I mean,
absolutely.
Right? Isn't that so amazing?
And what we do is we actually do that initial telephone interview. We call it an interview, and that's free. So that's 30 minutes dedicated on the phone with me, understanding what it is that you want, try to figure out, develop that rapport, try to figure out where we can fit in as far as helping you. And then I'm going to give you recommendations. So I recommend that you go ahead with our in-home consultation, and then that'll get you to a proposal, and that has a charge. Or you can go ahead and go to our online services, and we'll select everything for you from retail sources, and you can go ahead and purchase it all.
I love it.
Why do you have to pigeonhole yourself into certain levels of service? You can make it work.
Going back to Blanche's philosophy, that's exactly what it needs to be. I'm sorry, what are you doing, Corey?
I'm muting because it's lunchtime and the microwave is going to go off in a second. So,
all right, beep. All right. Okay. So going back to, I want to go back to what Blanche and your description of her work, and into young designers, year 2, 3, 4, 5, where they're trying to figure out what their business model is in this new shopping environment with all these different retailers online. That's a brilliant way to address it until they, as designers, can build up trade resources and build relationships and feel confident in the products, and then be able to give a comparison. So that's incredibly valuable. I have a very similar situation where sometimes a homeowner will just come in and it's like, well, so-and-so, I want to get my cabinets from so-and-so, I want to do with this from somewhere else. And, I'm like, sure, I'm happy to provide you with the specifications and the drawings, but please understand that when I hand that over to you, I'm going to wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, that's right. Don't call me.
And don't
call me.
Exactly.
Explain it.
And
change it.
And I have no control over it. So do you want control over the outcome? Because there's a really good chance if another designer gets a hold of my work, they might impose their own design opinions about it. God forbid. And
that's never happened.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And then it goes sideways and it comes back to me and I'm like, well, you didn't do what I told you to do. So
That's
I
right.
can't help you.
Yeah.
So there is value in that. And I think for those younger and again, I don't mean to say younger designers, but those ones just entering into the business.
Right.
It's not a bad thing to leverage that retail shopping experience until you can kind of sort out what works for you.
Right. And so what you're saying is to just consider sitting in that space and saying, I will charge you for a consultation fee, or do Blanche's model if you can, but charge you for a consultation fee, charge you for a design fee, give you a list of everything that's available retail, and thanks, have a great life. Now, I can hear the designers in my head on this, and what they're saying is, but then I don't get to take photographs. And in that case, they're right. There's hardly any way around that, right?
Well, you make that part of your agreement. Okay. You make that part of your agreement.
Well, but the thing is, you don't necessarily, I guess you would have to, my feeling on it is, you tell me if I'm right, it seems to me that you would have to almost on a case-by-case basis get a grasp on. You might be able to ascertain through all the conversation in that initial working with them and through the design process that this is somebody who actually is going to take the shopping list, execute it, and in a month or 2 months have a completed room. And maybe you even turn around and say, for another 3 hours, I will come and style it all after everything has been delivered, right? And then take photographs photographs or something. But some
Right.
people are going to take that list and order this darn stuff over the next 3 years, and eventually the room will look like the way it's supposed to look. But then you just have to walk away from that and not worry about that.
Right, because it's about efficiencies.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And so if you have a homeowner that actually gets a vision and goes and does something with it, then that's awesome. But if they don't, move on to the next one.
Yeah. It's like at that point when you're starting out, it's a numbers game to begin with, right? And so,
Right. And not every project deserves a photograph.
well, that's true too.
Not every project deserves it.
That's true.
But we've had some great projects in the past, and we didn't photograph them
Mhm.
because at the core of my being, I just enjoyed helping them.
Mhm.
That was it. There
Mhm.
was no other attachment to it. There was no other marketing ploy to it. I just enjoyed helping them.
Right. Well, I mean, in defense of designers starting their business out, there's this big, huge pressure to put the photographs on Instagram and to build a body of work and yada, 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 yada. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
But that's not something that's going to happen in a year.
No,
that's going to take time.
Right.
Experience.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, and then you have other designers like Lynn K. Leonidas, who literally, had the luxury, I shouldn't say luxury, had the ability to design and decorate her own apartment when she moved into it her first year in business. And she described how the abundance of, really good quality photographs that she got from it, because, first there's the room shot, and then there's the vignette of this, and then there's a close-up of that, and like 8 pictures coming out of one, living room. So
Exactly.
You have to be creative. You have to push the envelope a little bit.
Yep, exactly.
So, okay.
I want to go back and to Colleen's questions, just as a to recap what we started the conversation
Wrestle
about.
these kittens back into the room. Okay.
Yeah.
Some say puppies.
Well, her first question is like, give a sense of the industry norms and best practices for purchasing. Well, there's no industry norms anymore. Okay. And that is just not going to get any better at all, period. It's going to get worse, probably at least in the next month for sure. Okay. The other thing is she asked to describe a good process for being the most profitable with a sale. Well, from an experience base, the most profit on a sale comes from doing the due diligence at the front end. Okay, I mean, making sure you're getting all the details covered. Then when you execute the sale, that again, when you make that sales contract and you share that with the homeowner, that you're disclosing everything, so that when it comes out on the back end, it's either delivered or installed, you don't have a lot to manage. Okay, because you've taken care of the front end. So the better you are at the front end, the easier the back end is going to be. So that's one comment on that. And then the other thing is, she says, I don't need to know how to sell as I'm doing that well, just the process of determining price and then best practices after a sale is made. Well, one of the things I truly am very frustrated about our industry is this complete lack of connection after a sale is made. And I kicked Corey's ass in Florida in January, and we had a very brutal conversation over this very fact.
Whoa.
Yep.
Those are fighting words, folks.
They were fighting words, boy. I was like, I said to him, I was so pissed at. I was pissed at you, Corey.
I barely finished my tequila.
I know.
And it was just like all over me.
I can't even believe that you guys were not on the same side of that conversation. Like,
oh no, I'll let Corey disclose it. But I was so angry with him, and I'm like, you just did a Bush League mistake, huge fatal error. What the hell were you thinking?
Oh, you're talking about a particular client of his,
Yeah,
and he was telling you what happened, and you
Correct.
were like dressing him down.
Yeah, I was dressing him down. But what I wanted to say, I want to go back to Colleen, is, that piece of taking care of the homeowner after the sale that includes, if you got to go and engage with them personally, unpack the box from Amazon, okay, do whatever. It's that personal touch that is such a missing piece of our business today, because we just expect it to be on a text message or an email, and you just can't do, or not even email, Instagram. Oh yeah, that thing. Okay, it just doesn't work anymore. Okay,
Do you have
you
Instagram
need to
yet?
go back to the personal interaction.
I know. No, I agree with you. I mean, the technology and all the different things have come in and they have overrun our lives and they have infiltrated our businesses. But if you want to create a lifetime client as opposed to a one-time situation, you need to have the touch points. You need to do the things all the way throughout the process to set up your expectations and your agreements so that everybody understands exactly what they're going to get. And then once it's done, you do need some, personal, like human beingness, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you cards.
Yeah. Oh,
A little gift.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And
Thanks for being awesome.
right. And that is exactly the way that you do create a relationship which leads to a lifetime client. It's I don't know. You're right. You can't underestimate that. Is the truth.
Value.
Yeah.
Notice how Corey just kind of skimmed over that topic about me kicking his butt.
Mhm.
Okay, so what do you want to know? I mean, I'll tell you. I don't have anything to hide. And I did refer to that conversation earlier, and it was really about that disclosing of markups. That's what that ended up in. Which anyway. So
No, I'm
yes,
sorry, Louis.
I did not do a follow-up with a particular client because I was exhausted by it. So I had gone through some personal stuff, and this all happened all at the same time. So I was just completely exhausted by it, and I was just basically paralyzed in making a decision on what to do, if I should do anything at all.
Because they asked you that question, you mean? So at that question, or there was a problem, a different thing?
There was an allusion to a problem, which I really wasn't. I didn't want to open up the can of worms.
Okay.
So now the can of worms. He was wrong.
I can hear it too. He didn't take the bull by the horns. He didn't look in the mirror, and he didn't put on his big boy panties and take care of it. Right?
Well, part of the lesson. Part of the lesson learned is, for me anyway, was review your contracts point by point with clients.
Okay.
To their face.
Right.
Don't just assume that they're going to read it.
No,
and handle
ridiculous.
it on their own.
No.
But provide a welcome package before they start to just clarify all those little things that are in the contract but aren't in plain language.
Right.
Yeah. So we've been doing that since then, and whoa, what a turnaround.
Do you know Rachel Cannon from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was on the show a few weeks ago, and I'm going to forget, but I could probably find it in my notes right here. She has the contract. She discussed her contract, and then she discussed this little tongue-in-cheek document that she sends out after the contract is signed, and I'm going to find it, but I have to look into I'm not going to find it. So, but what it is just what you said. The contract has everything there, and then she has this like funny little list of things. Oh, the things we like, the things that something about things that will make you a good client, or something like that. Yep. We love it when you this, we don't like it when you that. And she basically describes how in their experience, the places that a project breaks down, that even though they've been agreed to in the official contract, are the touch points that things get wiggy.
Yeah.
And so she puts it in plain English. We, for instance, I'm going to make something up because I can't remember it, but say it's like, I do think one of them is no communication happens over text. Like if you want to make a change to something, so we don't like it when you text us. We love it when you send us an email confirming your purchase or your like that.
Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how many times I tell clients that, and they're like, what, you won't text me?
Right.
Like, if you're late for a meeting, totally fine.
Exactly.
But if you're going to be 15 minutes late, guess what? There's going to be a charge because I'm now deferring someone else's job.
It's establishing a protocol, and I use it. It's called rules of engagement.
Right. Yeah. I like it. I think it's awesome because there are so many. See, my business model, I don't need it. I'm not going to be in bed with you for 6 months or 2 years doing your project, so it's not going to get that wiggy.
Unless you're doing their betting, right?
I'm getting ready to not sell bedding anymore. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Okay.
So just want to go back a little bit, because in when we do our welcome package, we send it on our in-home consultation. So it's before they even have signed a contract, and we clarify points of purchase. So we clarify what retail purchase looks like, what a purchase from us looks like, what cabinetry purchase will look like. So we actually kind of give a little blurb and saying these are the expectations around those things.
Tell me what that means. What does that mean? Retail purchase, to do that. Tell me what.
Well, if you're interested in purchasing product from a retail location, let us know in advance before we show up, right? Because we're not going to help you with those purchases. But if you want us to handle the purchase for you and be your coordinator and be your expediter, be your order management, track your delivery and install it, and give you that great service and that end result, the big reveal, tell us that too.
Okay, so you're getting that information ahead of time. You're sort of saying, what's your experience and what's your expectation with this design process? If you were working with us, do you expect to purchase your own product? Do you expect to meet, okay.
Right, because that'll help me actually do the proposal, because I can do different price levels. So, yeah.
I
cool.
love it. I love it. Well, hello. You just ask what they want and then you give it to them. Hello.
Right?
Or
how can I help you?
Or you have the ability to say, that's not how I work, one or the other, but not 3 appointments into it. So go ahead.
We derailed completely here.
I know we did. I know.
But
it's good stuff.
I wanted to just reach out. First of all, I want to say thank you again, Luann, for inviting us to podcast with you. It's really, first of all, it's just bloody hell to get on to your calendar.
I know. It is. It's true.
And which is hugely phenomenal for you that you've become so popular.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So first of all, I thank you very much. And I'm sure Corey will say the same thing, but I really appreciate that the listeners out there have taken time to post questions to you, and that you can throw that out there as part of the random topics to your speakers. Yeah. And so, shout out to Colleen for,
yes.
Even though she doesn't live on a real island.
And you only get that if you're in the peonies.
Right.
Girlfriend.
Well, there's bridges to her island, so it doesn't count. Okay. So
doesn't that qualify as an island though, if you have to take a bridge to get to the other body of land?
No, if you have to take a boat, then you're going to an island.
Oh,
okay.
Excuse us.
Yeah. So just wanted to clarify that. So shout out to Colleen for, thanks for the, hope she gets to listen to the podcast.
I know. I'm going to have to email
just
her,
to
let her
thank
know.
you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, you guys are great. I mean, these are tough subjects and they're hard to stay in a straight line with them. And it's, really hard to stay in a straight line with you guys. But I mean, that's all kidding aside. No. So, but I like that we do this because it gives us, because I know you guys and we know each other, I think we can get to it a little quicker, as opposed to if I had some of these in-depth conversations, with somebody that I'm meeting for the first time. So I love the format. I thank you both for taking part in it and for coming back and putting up with my insane schedule to get on it. And I almost feel like it's like the hairdresser now. As soon as you make the one appointment, like in the finishes, you got to go and make the next one right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise you wait 3 weeks. It's like, wow.
Well, we use the same scheduling software, Luann, so I definitely understand how hard it is. Yeah, Acuity, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Colleen, you'll let us know if we helped you at all in all of this. We tried to our very best. We truly did. So thank you, too. Thanks so much for coming again.
Right. Thanks so much, Luann. See you, Judith.
Bye, Corey.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.